from the cloudy Copenhagen, and welcome to the training session on energy efficiency eTraining to Mozambique, hosted by Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. My name is Begonia, and I'm working as a research assistant at the Copenhagen Center, and I will be the moderator for today's training session. A couple of things before we move to the main content of our training. This training session is going to be about 90 minutes long, including time for Q&A at the end. In case you cannot stay until the end or want to get back to our presentations, all the materials and recording of the whole training session will be available online in a few days on the Copenhagen Center's knowledge management system. And we have many other webinar and information there. Have a look. I will give you more information in a few minutes. Before we start discussing about today's training session, I would like to inform our attendees that we comply with the General Data Protection Act, also known as GDPR. This means that your personal data, such as name, email, workplace, is safely processed and stored, and all of your rights pursuant to the GDPR are respected. You have full access to the data being processed about you, and at any time, you can request that inaccurate data be deleted or rectified. For access or further information, please contact with the people that are presented here. A few things about the Copenhagen Center. The Center conducts research and advisory activities in the field of energy efficiency and serves as energy efficiency hub for the Sustainable Energy for All initiative. The Center has an established network of global, regional, and national partners with a broad range of stakeholders to help accelerate the implementation of energy efficiency activities. Now, I would like to briefly introduce you to the panelists for today's training session. Rahul Raju is a senior expert on energy efficiency, and at UNFDTU Partnership, he focuses on the analysis of policy issues, conducts qualitative and quantitative studies, providing technical advice and other direct support associated with energy efficiency in countries and cities. On the other hand, we also have Clara Camarasa. She is a researcher and project manager with more than 5 years of experience in the field of energy efficiency in the building sector. Finally, I would like to inform that you can send us your questions during the presentations, and we will do our best to answer as many as we can at the end. Please don't forget to mention the name of the panelist that the question is for. And now, before starting with the first presentation of today's training session, I would like to have a poll session with some questions regarding to today's presentations. So the first question, do you know what energy audit and energy management is? And you have two options, yes or no. I will really encourage to participate. Thank you so much. And I will give some seconds for your responses. Okay, so we have received 58% responses as yes and 42 responses as no. I have another question. Does your firm organization have energy management system as well, with 2 responses, either yes or no? Thank you so much for your participation. We have received yes as 64% of the responses and no as 36% of the responses. I have another question. Does your firm facility organization get energy audits done? I will also give some seconds to reply. Thank you so much for your participation. We have received 69% of responses as yes and 31% responses as no. And now I just have the last question of the poll. Does your firm, facility, or organization have qualified energy managers? Yes or no? Okay, we have received 72% of responses as yes and 28 responses as no. Thank you so much for your participation in this poll session. And now I would like to give the floor to the first panelist of today's training session, Rahul.
Good morning, everyone. I am Rahul. Welcome back to the Energy Efficiency Training Program. A brief review of previous session. The previous session, which was held on Monday, that is the 16th of November, we talked about energy efficiency strategy planning. We covered areas such as benefits from energy efficiency plans and also a detailed step-by-step approach on developing of energy efficiency strategic plan. So I will be covering the last section of the remaining module 1 today, and then my colleague Dr. Clara will commence module 2 of the energy efficiency training session. So today I will be delivering my presentation on energy audit and management. If you remember, this is an important activity referred to you in our previous session, step 3 of energy efficiency strategy planning. So yes, there are upcoming sessions and I will be presenting them in the mentioned dates. So if there is any queries or any feedbacks, any questions in line with the topics, please do write to me. So this is poll results from 12th November. That is the second session what we started, where we were looking for what is energy efficiency. So while we did receive about 100% of the participants giving a yes, that they are aware about what energy efficiency is, I would assume that many of you were actually familiar also with energy audit and management. We saw this in today's polls also, that most of them are aware of what energy audit and management is about. Also about the point where how many participants are actually involved with energy efficiency related aspects, we found some distributed responses. So yes, based on this response, before I start, I would like to mention a point here. So based on the experiences often during energy audits, which happens to be one of the key aspects of energy efficiency activities, I found most of the entities are perfectly working as a team, but unfortunately, in some occasions, there are cases where only the electrical department of a particular entity is handed over the responsibility for coordinating, facilitating, or conducting these energy audit or energy management activities. So, of course, other departments do pitch in and whenever required, but the level of presence or the level of presence, the becoming proactive and all, is it needs to be a bit more desirable. So of course there can be different reasons. Maybe the majority of energy that is being dealt with the entities is in the form of only electrical energy, which is completely understandable. There are the energy according to an individual is only electrical energy. That is, often I come across 7 out of 10 people I meet who are not energy related background would be thinking that energy efficiency is all about replacing bulbs, switching off fans, some replacing some air conditioning units to energy efficient one. That's it. So actually this calls for a need for more awareness that energy can also be in other forms, and there is a lot more than that to it, other than replacing bulbs and fans. So yes, some of the departments at times may not be inclined to these activities, or they are not allowed to engage in such activities. So whatever the reason is, the approach actually this kind of approach actually creates some barriers to the energy efficiency projects and programs. So while will be learning about various aspects of energy audit and energy management in this session, I would request the participants to also focus and relate on how your individual role can contribute into these aspects of energy audit and management. So you might have a number of questions in mind on this topic. It's about what is it, why do we need energy audit, and when do we actually apply this, where do we apply this, and how do we apply this. So we will start with the first question here. What is energy management? We'll go by the definition. It's basically judicious and effective use of energy to maximize profits and enhance competitive positions. You have the clear defined objectives here. You have to minimize your energy cost and reduce waste without affecting your quality and other aspects, comfort and production facilities. Then, of course, you have to minimize the environmental impacts. Energy audit, again, we will start with a simple definition. It is a systematic approach for decision making in the area of energy management. So we see here that energy audit is a part of energy management here. So, I like the third definition actually, the one of my favorites, I would say. It gives you a detailed, in-depth content about what energy audit is about. It is, you see, you please note down here. It is a verification. It contains monitoring. It contains analysis of all the energy use, and also includes a submission of a technical report, which contains the recommendations about improving energy efficiency, along with cost-benefit analysis, and then also an action plan to how to reduce the energy consumption. So it's not just about identifying the measures. It's also about how you monitor, how you verify it, and then how you come about implement it with an action plan. So why do we need energy audit and management? Well, we all do know that energy is one of the top three expenses in any industry or a commercial building. The other two would be mostly materials and labor. And then, of course, it helps us understand the use of energy and compare with benchmarks. It also identifies scope for energy cost reduction. So you will have a better understanding on how and where energy and fuel are being used and how effectively they can be further used. You will be able to find out what are the different areas where energy is wasted, and what kind of improvement scope exists. So the energy, this actually directs you towards energy cost reduction. Uh, it also forms a good opportunity to have insights on preventive maintenance and support quality control programs. It gives you a reference point for the organization to manage energy, that is understanding the then baseline and related benchmarks, and then of course plan how to reach this benchmark as per the feasibility. In short, it actually enables you to convert the energy conservation ideas into reality by providing technical feasible solutions, economic aspects, and developed. It is in fact developed particularly for your organizational needs in a given time frame. Where do we use this? I mean, it is applicable anywhere and everywhere where you use energy, in fact. So these are the different sectors which I have worked in with respect to energy audit and management. So though it is applicable everywhere, the approach actually depends on the function and type of the building or the industry that you are looking to implement this. The depth which your final audit or the management information that you seek, then also the potential and magnitude of cost reduction that you desire. So all these factors depend on how or what extent you get into the depths of energy audit and management. So in general, a comprehensive energy audit is recommended to be taken about every 3 years. This way, you have enough time to incorporate recommended energy conservation measures and also gain most of your returns for what you have invested in these measures. It is important that you monitor the implemented measures as frequent as possible. For example, if you have installed an energy efficient equipment, let's say an air conditioning unit, and if your energy consumption has come down, monitoring will actually help you confirm that if the decrease in your energy consumption is due to the new equipment that is installed, or is it because you might have not actually been using that new air conditioning unit at all. So yeah, these all you will get into the nitty gritties and clarities based on how you monitor. Verification, yes, as per the individual implemented measures or during your next energy audit, you conduct a verification study based on all your implemented measures. The energy management, which is actually an overview of all this energy audit and other different aspects. It's a continuous activity. There is no special mention required here, but I believe every firm and entity will be definitely doing this part. But it's just that up to what extent they do is important. So we will see how this goes on. I will be honest here. There is a common framework that you can follow to understand for understanding purpose. But in reality, you may or may not follow everything what I'll be discussing here because your application and approach varies based on the different factors that I have mentioned in the previous slides. So energy management, I'll be dealing first with the energy management here now, the overview. As a theory, it is an in-depth subject because it involves almost all the verticals and horizontals of your organization to be involved. They have each have their own roles and responsibilities in this. A detailed subject on energy management will actually cover all those aspects. For the presentation today, I will be touching key points on the topic. So basically, there are four factors, or let's say four pillars, which are must for any successful energy management system. Uh, anyone miss any of these missing will lead to a failure of the energy management system. So it's basically about does the organization have technical ability to understand the energy terminologies? Do they have knowledge on the systems in place? Uh, yes, the organization, the firm, facility, or an industry is using various forms of energy. So are they actually monitoring this energy use and all system performances and parameters? Monitoring actually helps you find anomalies and deviations at early stage also before getting actually into serious trouble. The strategy plan again is a must within the organization. It is about having specific, well-defined, achievable, realistic, and time-bound action plan. Uh, None of these three would actually be even existing or will be initiated if you do not have the support of a top management. So I will quickly go through 6 steps covering all the necessary aspects that need to be present in the successful energy management system. Please note there is a lot more depth one can go into for understanding and adopting the energy management system. It also needs to be modulated as per one's requirements. So as mentioned in the previous slide, management's commitment and support is required to start anything. The first and the foremost important task for the management that they need to do is appoint an energy manager. So the energy manager's responsibility will be to set up goals, track progress, promote energy management programs. He or she will be coordinating with all the other departments in the organization, and they help the organization achieving its energy performance goals. The next task would be about forming a dedicated team. This team will be comprising of different representatives from different departments. Different departments can be, the engineering, the purchase, operations and management, facility management. It could be the health and safety, also different contractors and utilities. This is to ensure that the team and the energy manager will have a better overview through information exchange, and they can ensure integration of best practices into the organization. The third and the most important the important task is to have an energy policy in place. Because see, unless and until something is actually written down and something you have commitment towards, there is nothing that would be moving forward in an intended direction. So energy policy actually provides the foundation for setting performance goals and integrates your energy management culture and operations into the organization. So step two is about assessing the performances. Basically, we collect the data, we track the data over time. The data refers to what, how, when, and where the energy is being used. The granularity of this process depends on the organizations and teams' capability, of course. It also depends on what you intend to make out of the data that you collect. We talked about having baselines in the previous presentations also. Basically, you define a starting point from where you measure and compare your progress. And then there are benchmark values which help you compare your organization's energy performances figures. So this needs to be in place. It can be compared to the best available standards or your competitors. It actually gives you a reality check about where you stand and how badly you need to improve. Yes, again, a mere collection of data and will serve no good actually, because you obviously have to understand and analyze the patterns of the and the trends from the data what you've collected. All this you can actually get this done in-house, or you can actually hire or take support of external suitable experts. For more in-depth technical assessments, you may have to take support of professional energy auditors or technical experts to determine the performances, operational performances, and improvement potentials. Step 3 is about you need to set a goal. The first thing is you need to identify the parameters with respect to your time and your organization in order to set up a goal. It's about like, is your scope covering the entire organization, or it's only particular facility within an organization? Do you have short-term goals or long-term goals? You will have to review at times your baselines and benchmarks to determine the potential via the energy audits that you have performed. When you establish these goals, you need to ensure that they are again clear and time bound. Next step is to have an action plan in place. Basically, you evaluate the results from the technical assessments and energy audits that you have conducted. Then you decide what all needs to be done to move from the present level to the desired level as recommendations. The energy team again, talks to your management, your energy team that you have set up talks to your management, assigns roles, responsibilities, and of course, resources that needs to be required to set this technical steps in motion. Step 5 is about implementing this action plan. So once you have an action plan in place, you need to implement the measures. But for that, you actually need, a plan to communicate uh, the key aspects to the audiences about your energy management program by developing a targeted information. You may have to raise awareness and build capacity through training. Motivation again is one of the form of incentives, wherein to encourage your staff and to improve the energy performance and achieve your goals. Last step is, of course, you need to check yourself where you are, and every now and then to evaluate your progress. So there is progress evaluation. For this, actually, you need to gather the data on your results, review the metrics. It could be about the energy use, the cost of the data, sorry, the energy cost data. Did they improve? I mean, basically, you need to check, is the energy efficiency measures that have been implemented, did they improve any energy metrics? You have some benchmarks set earlier, so you may have to revisit them, see how your organization's energy metrics are behaving comparatively now. Then again, you can also look into the facts, like are the things are going well, is it being planned as the way you intend it to be, or you may have to again revisit your action plans, review your action plans. Last but not the least, everyone who worked really hard in this EMS activities definitely have to be recognized by the management, because it would boost their individual morals and encourage them to continue contributing and supporting their role towards building and improving the energy management system. So that was quick tour of energy management. Let's get a bit more detailed into the energy audit part now. So the energy audit is basically of two types: preliminary energy audit and detailed energy audit. The detailed is further divided into three phases. It's pre-audit phase, audit phase, and post-audit phase. So this is generally a short and quick activity, the preliminary energy audit. You don't have to spend much time here. It is often followed for a large scale government, municipalities, or utility initiatives, because generally the number of beneficiaries are quite high, and you would be needing a detailed comprehensive you would not be needing detailed energy comprehensive energy audits for these cases. So to understand this better, with respect to which context this is often used, I will share my first-hand experiences, examples on the parts where I was part of this preliminary energy audits. So the first one here is actually to conduct load research study for state distribution company, where it involved about 6,000 plus HT industries and about 1.3 lakh of LT industries in place from different sectors. So basically, the bigger picture of the utility company was to conduct this demand side management action plan based on the outcomes of this load research study. And based on this, the utility company had plans to accordingly implement different category-wise DSM interventions and also conduct some analysis. So yes, since these are in large number of entities that needs to be targeted, that needs to be covered, studied, uh, a complete comprehensive energy audit would take quite a lot of time. So there are some samples that are selected and a quick preliminary energy audit is done. I'll tell you how. I'll also show you what are the different components of the preliminary energy audit in the next subsequent slides. Then the next one is about the development bank. One of the development bank wanted to support the MSME units or the micro, small, medium enterprises entities units in improving their market competitiveness through energy efficiency and enhancing product quality. So we had to conduct some quick preliminary energy audits, and based on which the bank would decide which unit will be eligible for financial incentives. So yeah, these are the different steps under the preliminary energy audit. The first one is actually you need to the energy auditor, I would say, or the team would actually establish energy consumption in the organization. They quickly collect the energy data. The next step would be to estimate the scope for saving based on the type of energy used, the equipment, the technology installed, the condition, and the age of this setup. Similar parameters, the energy auditor would be able to gauge and gauge the potential scope for energy savings. The next step would be trying to identify low-hanging fruits, most likely the easiest areas to for attention. Something like identifying type of light fittings they are there, how many are there, and how many needs replacements to energy efficient fittings. Do you have occupancy sensors or motion sensors in place? How is the insulation of the chilled water lines or steam lines? Something like this. With a quick look into the production patterns, occupancy patterns, maybe even on the EMS data that is already present there, uh, and more often with the discussions with the facilities personals, the energy auditor would be able to come up with certain measures which may then and there result in some immediate savings also. The next step is about identifying the areas that might be requiring more detailed study and measurements. Of course, it's not quite possible to with just one look and with a short duration of time you can address everything. Some of them will be needing some more time. The auditor might have to get into the depths of the facilities operations. But based on the experience and based on interaction during the preliminary audit, the energy auditor should be able to identify the potential areas which may require an in-depth study. Then, of course, finally, you set a reference point based on all this data and activities that with all this in place. It can be used to compare the organization in future regarding where it stands after taking necessary energy efficiency measures. So you should note actually that it is important to know that the preliminary energy audit actually uses mostly the existing and easily obtained data. There is not much in-depth analysis that is being done here. So we move into the next phase, that is the detailed energy audit phase. So detailed energy audits are in fact very detailed. The duration, however, depends on the size and complexity of the industries or the building or the municipal facility. Uh, I think I remember spending about a week's time for energy audits in buildings, and then it can go up to months for industries like refineries. So yeah, it depends on the complexity and the size. Uh, I will be a bit more generic here, quickly covering about the process in 10 steps. Please note that this is only for reference. It should give the participants actually a direction, a point to start. This may appropriately modify a little depending on what type of energy audit is, what the energy audit is for. So before we start off, these are the different energy audit instruments that the energy auditing team will be using. Uh, So if you look into it, I mean, generally they get the team gets their own instruments onto the site. They install, they measure, they take their own data. They do rely on the organization's data, but for authenticity, they try to measure their own values and parameters, and then do the analysis. So yeah, so you have the this is ultrasonic water flow meter used to measure fluid flows or water flows over pipelines. It could be hot water lines or chilled water lines or cooling water lines wherever possible. Mostly useful for the HVAC systems and boiler systems in place. Then you have the power analyzers, which actually capture a lot of electrical parameters. It could be kWh, kVA, the power factor, the harmonics, all these activities. Then you have this multifunction kit. With, okay, of course, there are now latest and advanced versions coming up with wireless technologies and all. But in short, they do measure your temperatures. It could be air temperatures, humidities, relative humidities, the pressures in the ducts, the temperatures, and other parameters for your fluids. So all these factors come into picture. And then you have thermograph, which is used to identify the leakage detections and the health of the insulations of chilled water lines, or the steam lines. Then, of course, you also have some, let's say, lux meter, which is used for measuring the lux levels at different areas for lighting purposes. So yes, you have different instruments for different purposes and parameters to be measured. So yes, I would like to invite you all to join me through while I take you through a short tour on detailed energy audit. The first step it's basically phase one, where you actually do a pre-audit phase. Uh, it is important. This phase is very important because how effectively you as an energy auditor would carry out the stage defines how successful and smooth your rest of the audit goes. So yes, first thing is you need to plan and organize, and then you carry out, or the energy auditor actually carries out a walkthrough audit. And then the auditor would also have extensive interactions with the energy manager or the facility or production manager. So that everyone has a story to tell. So it is through these stories, you understand different perceptions, different challenges, and even different angles of a common challenge. So yes, interaction is one of the key aspects of the task here. And the phase is important because it helps the energy auditing team to plan their resources. For example, it could be like uh, what is the team composition, how many should be there in the team, or what kind of the composition should be there. For example, how many electrical should be there in the team, how many mechanical background, or how many chemical or process engineers, depending on the industry or the organization that they are conducting energy audit for. It could also be about organizing what are the different set of instruments that they need to carry for the energy audit. And then of course, most importantly, the to estimate what is the time frame or the time duration that they would take for the audit to be conducted. The next one would be, yes, the data collection, not a detailed one yet, but enough to know that what the audit will be like, the facility load, the type of energies used, different areas, different sections, something on this sort. The auditor would then try to familiarize with the different sections and areas of the organization or of the industrial plant or the building, because for the first hand observations and assessments, of course it is important that the plant personnel, like the energy manager or some another personnel would accompany the energy auditor to explain the things around. Step two, so once the energy auditor is acquainted with the facility, its operations and practices, they move to the step two, that is, you conduct a brief meeting with the divisional heads, the management, and the concerned personnel. This is basically to build a cooperation among different divisions. This also is an opportunity, to interact and seek more details or additional information on any aspects which you did not understand, the auditor does not understand during the walkthrough. The energy auditor should also on this platform ensure that the department heads and important personnel convey to their teams for about the ongoing energy audit activities. Everyone in the facility basically should be aware of what is going on in regarding energy audit and energy management. I have had my own share of experiences here. I happened to once log in one of my instruments, some of the instruments to a chiller in a facility to capture the water flow trends and the electrical parameters and the temperature trends throughout a 24-hour duration. So the next day morning when we came up when we came back to the facility and we saw the chiller was not at all running because it was switched off, because it was learned that someone who was not aware of these activities happened to turn off this actual chiller which wasn't under study, and they started operating some standby chiller. So yeah, such kind of communication gaps or something like that will should not be encouraged, because it actually instances like this will increase your time, your cost of energy audit services, and resources. So we will move into the audit phase here. That is in step 3. You actually as an energy auditor and your team, you will by you have a good understanding of what they can expect in the facility. You would have to allocate the different tasks for yourself. The energy audit team will be collecting some primary data for, say, historic analysis to set a baseline. And the fundamental task would be to collect energy bills, study the energy consumption patterns. The data can also be related to, design and operational data, the operating schedules, what are the different number of shifts that the personnel operate in. Uh, and most of the data is usually collected from, the manuals, the log sheets, the nameplates that are looked into. For the audit, I think at times flowcharts may also be required to be shared by the organization. If it is not having any, then the energy auditor would be sitting along with the facility personnel to actually develop a flowchart, because that gives you actually a better understanding of how the material flows are happening, how the energy flow is happening throughout the facility. And then you also have the utility system diagrams that will be collected. So remember that you should remember that the energy audit team is usually an external agency, or someone who is not actually involved in facilities or industries day-to-day activities. So it is important that the organization or the facility supports them with enough data. So these utility diagrams will also be of help to them to get a sense of direction in the large network. The diagrams could be something like the single line power distribution diagrams, mostly referred by the electrical department. You also have water, steam, or compressed air distribution system diagrams. Step 4, the energy audit team individuals will now start to take in-depth surveys and monitoring of individual areas. For example, if someone takes over on the motor section, they would be taking about, let's say, collecting the list of motors, what are the different capacities, what is the age of the motors, what number of times it has been rewounded, is the rewinding done locally or by some professional manufacturer. So if you look into the insulation part, it's something like roughly to see what surfaces of the pipe or pipelines are have bad insulation. Lighting surveys again to see firsthand what type of fittings are available or installed, how many are actually being used during the daytime, how many will actually be used during the evening time. So other various equipment details and lists and capacities will also be captured. The energy auditor then compares their first-hand collection of operating data and design data with the ones actually that is or was shared by the plant personnel or the facility personnel. But it's just to ensure that the audit team is going on the right track, or is it something that they getting deviated from what the facility intends them to move towards. Step 5, here it's about mostly conducting detailed trials and experiments in energy intensive areas. So the energy audit team will start conducting, all these activities here. They would start, for example, monitor power parameters, that is, let's say the maximum demand, the power factor, the kilowatt hours, etc. Study the load variation trends of, for example, in pumps, fans, cooling, heating, compressors, and then try to relate this variation with actual facility operations, or occupancy and production patterns. Basically, at this step, detailed performance evaluation and efficiency trials are done through various set of measurements. We will see this performance assessments in detail for HVAC systems in my upcoming presentations. So this is one of the examples. One of the examples where you can see there's a power analyzer that is being connected to one of the facilities electrical panels, and so this basically logs in, captures how the power load variations is happening throughout a certain set period of time. It could be 24 hours or 48 hours, or during the weekend how it varies. So these are the different aspects that you can capture, log, and then uh, come up with some trends to analyze how the performances, how the power consumption patterns are, along with the quality parameters also. So this is another example where we were measuring this chilled water flow in certain in HVAC pipelines using an ultrasonic flow meter. Step 6 is about the detailed analysis on energy use will have to be done once the energy, it's mostly about having this material and energy balances that needs to be prepared, because this gives an idea about how about the share of energy consumed from different sources, from and the share of energy consumption for different outputs. So the outputs actually can be useful, or what are the different outputs that what up to what extent of energy that can be different used, or what is the extent of energy that is lost. Everything that is actually there can be captured through material and energy balances also. Uh, for example, in case of a boiler, if you see here, energy from fuel consumed is utilized to generate steam, and then a portion of that energy is lost with respect to flue gases, with respect to surface losses. If you again further get into the flue gas analysis and all, then you will be having a better analysis on different causes for these losses. Is it due to the excess air that is being supplied, or is it due to the improper or partial combustion that is happening, or is it due to excess moisture that is present in the fuel, or or you find out that there is a lot of heat loss that is happening through your flue gas, and at times there are possibilities of trying to capture that, or capture that waste heat, whatever that is available or feasible, before venting it out. So by now in step 7, you will be you would have understood, you would have taken all your measurements and you have analyzed the data. Now the energy auditor will actually develop proposals on the energy conservation opportunities through different sections, different areas. The ideas will actually be consolidated and further refined. The ideas will again then be discussed with the operators or unit personnel, facility managers, production managers, or the management. It is important, they understand the energy auditor's point of view, and it is also important that the energy auditor understands the management's or the operator's point of view. So at times, all the parties will have to do some brainstorming sessions to see how an idea can be adopted. So once there is an understanding and common consensus between the energy audit team and facility, depending on whose scope the activity was agreed upon, they will have to contact the vendors, suppliers, technology providers to see if they will be able to deliver the desired energy efficiency technology, material, or equipment. If so, and at what cost? So it's not just about technical analysis. It is important that we do cost benefit analysis also to understand the feasibility. It's yes, you have enough of efficient equipment or technologies that are present in the market, but up to what extent it is useful to you and up to what extent it is feasible to you also matters. So you have estimated, or the energy auditor first estimates the potential energy savings, and then depending on your energy cost, they would arrive to the different what the extent of energy cost that will be saved. Based on the necessary investments or cost for implementation, the auditor would be evaluating the payback periods or the return on investments, and then decide on which energy efficiency measure one would want to more likely pick. So basically, you prioritize based on the low, medium, and long-term measures. This is the step 9, wherein it consists of reporting and presentation to the top management. So finally, after coming in consensus with the various facility and plant personnel, you prepare a report, or the auditor prepares a report and gives a presentation to the top management, who are actually often the final decision makers. So by this, I think the long journey to the energy auditing comes to an end. But then there is a post audit phase also, wherein an implementation and follow up happens. So a good and a reliable energy auditor would further assist the facility or the industry to implement in implementation of this energy conservation measure whatever they have recommended. It's just often, I mean, earlier it used to happen where the auditor or the auditing team comes, gives some recommendations, and they move out. The scope is done. But lately, I think there are the contracts are designed in such a way that the energy auditor and the team stays till the end. That is not just completing the audit and giving recommendations, but also to assist them in implementation part. And often the payments or the charges for the energy audit team would also be linked to the extent of savings that are being achieved based on the recommendations that they have given. So yes, after the energy audit, the interaction will continue with periodic follow-ups and reviews also. So we will see how energy audits are. Okay, fine. So yes, there are the different opportunities why mostly during the audits you can look into, that is like say fuel substitution, wherein what type of fuel you are using, can it be converted or substituted or complemented with efficient fuel. Of course, now most of them are using natural gas. Earlier, people used to use coal for certain applications. Now natural gas seems to be more efficient enough for the same utilization. Then again, you have this on the generation side. I think you have opportunities on different areas, that is captive power generation, the boilers, optimal loading patterns. You can look into the regulations of excess air, combustion air, and all these things. Uh, Again, you can look into the opportunities of energy distribution, that is areas of transformers, cables, possible power factor improvements in the electrical systems. Then again, for the water pipelines, something opportunities like maintaining optimal flows, pressures. So yes, so in this way you will have different actions and activities you can look into. These are very limited, depending on the type of audit and depending on the situation or the type of industry that you are looking into. There are different opportunities that you can come across apart from these what we have mentioned here. So someone was actually asking during our previous session, that is on 16th November, that something about which sector has highest saving potential. I am presenting here my first-hand observations here. So this is a consolidated version of energy saving potential for all the sectors I worked with or was associated with. So this is not just an estimated potential. Also, most of them are actually achieved. So yes, this is practical. Again, please note that this is observations from the energy audits that I was personally associated with. This is for getting an idea on the range of that could be that the potential of energy savings that can be possible. However, there can be possibilities of finding saving potentials even lower or even higher than the ones mentioned here. So if you remember, referring to our previous session again, The energy efficiency potential actually depends on various factors, the age, purpose, capacity, technology installed, something like that. So yes, I think with this I will end my presentation. Thank you for your time. I will be coming back for other topics also. Once again, please do share your feedbacks and queries so that I'll be able to deliver more for your upcoming presentations. I will now hand over the floor to Dr. Clara for the next session. She will be commencing the module 2 today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Begonia, and welcome everybody to the training session, Status Quo and Energy Efficiency Potential Actions for Existing Commercial Buildings. As was earlier introduced, my name is Clara Camarasa. I'm a PhD in Civil and Environmental Engineering, and I'm currently working in the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. And I'm happy to guide you today through the presentation of today. The objective of this session is to share insights on the importance of energy efficiency interventions in existing commercial buildings. I will start with a theory block, which describes general aspects in this topic, which will take approximately 20 minutes, or at least that was the schedule. I see that we're a bit delayed on schedule, so I will try to be as quick as possible to make up for this little delay of today's session. And the second block, as most of you already know, will be a Q&A session in which you will have the opportunity to raise any questions or comments from your side, and this will take around 10 minutes. So let's delve into the first chunk, the first block. I would like to start by addressing the query, why? Why should we implement energy efficiency measures in buildings? Well, buildings and building construction sector combined are responsible for over 1/3 of the global final energy consumption and nearly 40% of the total direct and indirect CO2 emissions worldwide. Furthermore, energy demand from buildings and building construction continues to rise, driven by the improved access to energy, greater ownership and use of energy-consuming devices, along with the growth in global buildings floor area. Currently, out of the 49.4 billion tons of CO2 emissions that are generated globally, energy use in residential building accounts for around 11%, which mostly comes from the generation of energy for heating and cooling, domestic hot water, as well as electricity for lighting and appliances. And in terms of commercial buildings, they represent around 6.5% of the global emissions. And these are again related to emissions from the generation of electricity, lighting, appliances, heating, and cooling. But why should we implement energy efficiency in buildings? What is the energy and respective CO2 emission saving potential that can be expected from these interventions? And here is very much linked to the final, I'm linking to the final slide from my colleague Rahul in the previous session. And as you can see in this figure, from the 40 gigaton of baseline emissions, energy efficiency can derive in 25% of CO2 saving in buildings, around 10% in appliances, and lighting in 5%. So a total of 40% of CO2 emission reduction. This, of course, can vary based on the specific country, region, and context, as well as the building, of course, be it the location, the age, the use, etc. So these thresholds, as Rahul was indicating, can either increase or decrease in respects to this model depending on the specific case. But let's see how this translates into commercial buildings. First, what do we mean when we talk about commercial buildings? Because there are different definitions in terms of commercial buildings. According to the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, so the RICS, commercial buildings cover all types of real estates used to business or for business purposes. The principal sectors within commercial property are retail, office, industrial, and leisure. Yet, in fact, commercial property serves a vast array of purposes supporting both public and private sector purposes, as well as services, such as government, service industries, education, healthcare, manufacturing, telecommunication, and other civil infrastructure. This means hotels and restaurants, offices, retail chains, shopping malls, government buildings, stadiums, hospitals, schools, factories, warehouses, etc. The exception being agriculture or residential use. As was described by Gabriela in an earlier session, in overall, energy efficiency interventions derive in improvements beyond the energy and CO2 emission saving, such as improved energy security, plus delivery through the reduction in demand of energy, more competitive energy prices, if the demand falls, of course, macroeconomic impacts by addressing variables such as consumer spending, investment, net exports, as well as government spending, industrial productivity through the enhancing of competitiveness, profitability, reduction, product quality, as well as improving the work environment, poverty alleviation, given that energy suppliers improve their own efficiency, they can provide energy to more households, thereby supporting increased access to energy. Also health and well-being by enhancing the indoor air quality and reducing energy bills. Employment as investment in energy efficiency can derive a net gain of employment rates, both direct and indirect, as have been proven in several studies in several cases. Local air pollution reduction, such as sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, and nitrogen oxide. Resource management, both on a national and aggregate international level, as lower energy demand can reduce pressure on natural resource extraction. Public budgets, saving in energy bills, the improved health conditions, and the increased employment rate can also have a very positive impact on the public cash flows, disposable income through the lower energy bills in the case of households, but also in companies, as well as asset value increase, as has been again proved in many studies. Energy efficiency measures can derive in a higher demand of the asset or building, and therefore there's an asset value increase beyond the initial investment on the energy efficiency measures. And in terms of benefits of energy efficiency interventions of commercial buildings, some of the most predominant are: it can also reduce the equipment operation and maintenance costs, extending their useful life. Depending on the specific case and framework conditions, this might be a way to adapt the equipment and the facilities to current regulations. Energy efficiency can also ensure local air pollution reduction and promote the use of renewable energy, such as PV panels. The various plans and works reduced or needed to upgrade the building can also lead to job creation by the use of human resources to design, execute, and monitor these works, and even create a new know-how, a craftsmanship, and a competitive advantage, as mentioned earlier. And last but not least, it can increase the value of the building or the asset, as well as the indoor air quality, as I mentioned in the prior figure. In a nutshell, energy efficiency in buildings is a means to support the local economic and social development while attaining environmental goals. It should be noted that energy efficiency measures can be carried out both in pre-existing buildings through the retrofit projects, as well as in new construction. In the case of newly constructed buildings, there might be a greater degree of freedom when we talk about passive design measures that can be carried out, such as a good orientation of the building to capitalize on sunlight, or a green facade, for example, to protect against the incidence of the sun, wind, or rain. And it is essential to introduce such passive measures during the design process to obtain optimal results at a lower cost. On the other hand, in the case of pre-existing buildings, as is the focus of this session, the measures must be adapted to the conditions marked by the pre-existing typology of the building. Both cases, I must mention, are becoming more and more spread in the world in commercial buildings, as in most cases, the investment is recovered in a very short period of time through savings in the energy bill, and in many cases through increased productivity. There are many energy efficiency measures that can be undertaken in commercial buildings. A way to cluster these measures is through the types of systems that they entail: passive systems, active systems, or other generic improvements. Passive systems are those related to the building components that do not require energy to operate. Active systems are those that, although they're more efficient than regular ones, they still require energy to function. Generic improvements do not respect any particular technology or building component, but can also improve the consumption of the building quantitatively. In terms of generic improvements, these can be divided into good energy consumption practices among the employees, proper maintenance of the facilities, as well as an adequate contracting of the energy bill. As for the passive systems, these can be divided into efficient skins, minimize or maximize the solar gain depending on the local weather conditions, capitalize on daylight, as well as natural airflows are some of the main actions, as we will see in the next slide. Moving on to active systems, some examples are efficient lighting, efficient heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, that is HVAC systems, or other active controls like energy management systems, as Rahul previously explained. In any case, a key idea in all of this that I would like to stress in this slide is that buildings and their components work as a system, especially in terms of energy consumption. All of these systems must be taken into consideration for an optimal result of the energy performance of the buildings. So a single element, such as the window, should not be approached without understanding how the overall system works. And to this end, energy audits, as my colleague Rahul explained previously, is a key step in order to ensure that even though we address a single element, such as the windows first, we have taken into consideration the whole system. Let's now have a look at the generic measures that can be implemented. First, good energy consumption practices among the employees, which consists on adapting the building use schedule to capitalize daylight or turn off office equipment when it is not in use, or create an energy management plan, as was explained earlier. Also closing the windows and doors when the AC is on, etc. Another very important element in the generic measures is the proper maintenance of the facility, which entails an up-to-date energy management system, the quantification of saving and investments in energy, along with regular maintenance of the facilities to make sure that the installations work at their best, avoiding any unnecessary inefficiencies. The knowledge and management of the electricity bill is also a key component of this section, such as the optimization of the contracting of electrical supplies, making sure that the energy tariff is the most suitable for the building, the use of computer tools for monitoring consumption, and also, if possible, making use of district heating and cooling systems. Moving on to the building envelope. This is one of the most important components of the building, not only because of its skin function, but also from an energy perspective. A well-designed and executed building envelope based on the local weather conditions, construction practices, and materials will ensure that the building keeps the right temperature and the right level of humidity throughout the year and doesn't waste any energy. This includes a good insulation of the enclosure to make the thermal conditions inside the building stable, either from the cold or from the heat exterior conditions. This also includes the replacements of the windows and doors so that the heat or cold does not escape through these openings. In the cases where the building is located in warmer weather conditions, envelope systems such as green roofs or facades or canopies, parasols, can minimize the solar heat gain and therefore reduce the demand for cooling. But regardless of the temperature, it is important to also capitalize on daylight to save energy. This is achieved through the orientation of the building, also with solar shelves or mirror ducts, as can be seen in the images to the bottom right of the slide. Now, I won't delve too much into each one of these actions, as in the upcoming session 2.2, Energy Efficiency in the Building Envelope, I will give many more details upon each of these measures. As for the HVAC systems, possible improvement measures proposed are install thermostatic valves in radiators if radiators are in place, regulation of the air conditioning temperature, boiler replacement by a more efficient one, install a biomass boiler, installation of the air conditioning distribution circuit, replacement of diesel and fuel oil with natural gas, for instance, maintenance of the boiler or any other equipment, covering the exterior chiller and heat pump condensers, installing geothermal energy for the air conditioning of buildings, radiant systems for the flooring, ceiling, and cooling, for instance, and heat recovery, as well as installing solar thermal panels, and again, if possible, connecting to district heating and cooling systems. These are just some points, but my colleague Rahul will explain this in much more detail in the session 2.5 and 2.6 of this training with energy efficiency HVAC systems parts 1 and 2, which I believe will take place next week. As for the lighting, possible improvements would be replacement of electromagnetic ballast by electronic ballast in luminaires, install present detectors in areas of sporadic use, use of natural light by means of light sensors, lighting zoning, lighting with LED lamps, and replacement of mercury and sodium vapor lamps in outdoor lighting with LEDs, for instance. Yet again, further details for this will be developed in the upcoming session 2.4 for lighting systems. In terms of equipment and appliances, energy demand can be reduced through the use of multiple strips with programmable switches or plugs, variable speed drives and motors, high efficiency engines, more efficient elevators, for instance, more efficient electrical appliances, among many others. Now let's have a look at some case studies of energy efficiency measures in existing commercial buildings around the world. For the first case study, I would like to introduce the energy efficiency improvements in the municipality of Jutland in Sweden. This municipality manages over 500,000 square meters heated building area, including school, day nurseries, hospitals and other care premises, libraries, sport arenas, public swimming pools, offices, etc. In the year 1997, the annual energy use in the municipality of Jutland building was 172 kilowatt hour per square meter heat and 83 kilowatt hour per square meter of electricity. Until the year 2010, the energy use has decreased to up to 108 kilowatt hour per square meter heat, so nearly by half, and 74 kilowatt hour of electricity per square meter, so around 20% reduction. The economic value of the total saved energy in 2009 energy cost is estimated to be around 2.5 million euros, which is around 213 million metical, as for the Mozambican currency, if I may have calculated this correctly, and a total of 7.4 million euro, which is around 647 million metical in the case of the year 2003. According to the sources, they recovered the investment in most of the buildings within 2 to 3 years. And the measures that were undertaken was that, for instance, the existing equipments or systems were optimized in all buildings in order to have every building operated as close as optimal as possible while maintaining comfort, of course. So things such as indoor temperatures, operation hours of different systems, night reduction of indoor temperatures and lights were adjusted and monitored in order to optimize demand or the use of energy. Other measures were improved routines concerning management and monitoring in order to make equipment for heating and cooling, ventilation, and water supply work in its most effective mode. The next case study is located in a warmer climate in Catalonia, Spain. The building of the Catalan Institute of Energy and the Catalan Consumer Energy had an annual energy consumption of more than 1.5 million kilowatt hour, with an annual energy cost of 153k euros per year, which is around 13 million metical. In addition to this, the cost per contracted power was of around 24k euros per year, so around 2 million metical. And the main energy cost corresponded to air conditioning with 36% and lighting with 25%. Now, following the agreement of the regional government, the Generalitat de Catalunya, and its energy saving and efficiency program, energy audits were carried out in all buildings and dependencies of the government with an annual consumption greater than 200K kilowatt hour. The building you see in this slide was one of the selected ones to implement these program and the result of the application of a set of energy efficiency measures, such as the improvement of the building envelope, a better energy monitoring systems and user practices led to a 20% reduction in the electricity consumption in the period 2012 to 2014, with a total saving of annual electricity bill of 22.5%, which led to a saving in the cost of 34K euro, which is around 3 million meticals in 2013 only. In this way, the investments in energy efficiency had a payback time of around 6 months and currently provides more than 3 million meticals a year of energy saving, money that can be reinvested into further improvements of the building or the institute employees' working conditions. Now, this case highlights both the benefits of implementing energy efficiency saving, not only in terms of energy and cost-effective measures, as well. It also demonstrates the importance of energy saving and efficiency programs from a national and regional level. So let's recap on the status quo and energy efficiency potential actions for existing commercial buildings. Worldwide, buildings are the single biggest contributor to energy demand and respective CO2 emissions. Energy efficiency actions can considerably reduce energy costs through the increase of energy savings. And in fact, many of these actions are cost-effective with quite short period payback times. Beyond the energy savings, energy efficiency in commercial buildings can be a means to support the local, economic, and social development while attaining environmental goals through a wide number of additional benefits. Many options are available in order to implement energy efficiency improvements in buildings, from LED lighting to low-cost energy efficiency strategies, such as better utilizing natural light. These can be classified, these measures, into generic, passive, and active. Given that the building works as a system, the concrete set of energy efficiency measures should be identified based on a thorough energy audit of the concrete energy performance, or based on the concrete energy performance and needs of each specific building. As we have seen, regardless of the climate and economic framework conditions the building is located in, energy efficiency measures can be cost-effective with very short period payback times. And having said this, I thank you all for your attention and look forward to the Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Clara and Rahul, for the very interesting and useful presentations. Now I would like to introduce the Q&A session, and we have received several interesting questions from the audience. I would like to first start with a question that we have received for Rahul. So Rahul, the first question is as follows. Is there a need for a further energy audit after the preliminary one before implementing measures?
Thank you, Begonia. So, as I have mentioned in the during the presentation also, it all depends on the purpose of getting an energy audit done. So the first question would be, you need to ask is, why do you need to carry out an energy audit? As one of the examples which I have mentioned, if it is for these kind of, let's say, the large scale municipal level projects that needs to be for data collection to who the government wants to identify what is the potential in a particular sector, something like that, then a preliminary energy audit would be sufficient by taking some sample industries in that sector, getting this done through the steps which I have mentioned earlier. So yes, if you want to be done for a more detailed one, wherein you are setting a target that I need to reduce an energy consumption within certain time frame, immediately I would say, or within a couple of years or 3 years, in a given industry, or in a given in one individual industry or an individual facility, that's mostly a management's call, I would say. wherein you will have much more detailed assessments and analysis, wherein individual equipment performance analysis, where you will find where you will be calculating efficiencies and all for actual comprehensive energy audits. So yes, it depends on where you want to stop. If you are satisfied with the preliminary audits, wherein it just hardly takes about a couple of days, not more than that, depending on the size of the industry or the plant or the facility again. Uh, and the results will be mostly, the recommendations will be mostly based on the data that is being easily available and collected. Not much of measurements will be done during this preliminary stage. So if the management is good with the data or the recommendations based on this analysis, then well and good. Or else, if they want something more, let's say even more detailed assessments, then they need to go for further energy audit.
Thank you so much, Rahul, for the response. Another question we have received from the audience. What is a virtual energy assessment and how is it different from an energy audit?
This is something new I'm listening to be frank, because I, as an energy auditor, I mostly was a person who used to step onto the field, where energy auditors generally try to get onto the field, onto the client's position or place, I would say, uh, physically monitor, physically measure the values and parameters. So something which is virtual, I'm not sure what it is about, but I can get back to you on that. The way I understand is, based on the name that is presented here, it's mostly that I mean, certain firms also do this, wherein they send in the data, or the desired data asked by the energy expert or the energy auditor at a different location, and from remote assessments, wherein they assess based on the data, they would give the recommendations. So in physically, they would not be doing any measurements of that sort. So at least that is what I sense here. So yes, if it is referring to energy audits, but otherwise, I think mostly for power plants and all these cement plants and all, what happens is, the supplier or the technology provider, for example, if let's say if a power plant where a turbine and a boiler and all are being supplied by uh, a specific company, a GE or Mitsubishi or someone like that. So in order to they do keep monitoring and doing these energy assessments, sitting in, let's say, France or somewhere else, in a remote, in a different international location. So from there, they do keep monitoring these energy parameters, and then they keep guiding the actual plant personnel who are on field in the plant, what needs to be done, what are the next steps to do, for improving or monitoring or optimizing the operations and performances. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rahul. And the last question we have received for you is a more finance-related question. So it's as follows. What is the difference between return on investment and payback period?
So as a technical guy, or as a technical expert, mostly I mean, for energy audits for a building level or a simple plant level and all, at individual entity, it is mostly they follow the simple ROI or simple payback periods, which I would say. So a payback period is nothing but you have, it would give you a number of years within which your invested amount is paid back. So for example, if you have like $10,000 that you are investing, and then about $1,000 is something you get in return on an annual basis, then you divide that 10,000 by 1,000. That is nothing but within 10 years you will be getting a payback. So payback actually gives you the time sense of the investments that you are making. And it can be on anything. I have given just you an example for energy point of view. And then again, the ROI on the other hand is actually, it gives you more about the amount perspective, that is the amount what you would be getting in return as a result of certain investment, I would say. So let's say I have invested somewhere around same $15,000, and then I'm expecting a return on investment. If you come across something like this, you have invested a $15,000 investment, and then certain about 5% returns on an average for about 3 years. That means on an annual basis you will be getting about $750 or something, something like that on the return point of view. So to not to be much more confused, I would say the payback period is more about talking about time, within what time you will be getting your invested amount, and the ROI is about more about the amount, I would say. What is the amount of that you would be getting in return after your investments. So yeah, but more financial part, I think we will be dealing with more sessions related to financial aspects also in the upcoming presentations. So my colleagues will be dealing with it, but otherwise I can also share you some information over email or something.
Thank you so much, Rahul, for the detailed responses. And now I would like to introduce the questions we have received for Clara. Clara, the first question we have received for you. Is it possible to achieve net zero energy buildings? And if yes, what factors are key to achieving zero emission or net zero energy buildings?
Thank you very much for the question, Begonia, and the attendee who posted. Indeed, it is possible to achieve net zero energy buildings. There are many cases around the world which have demonstrated so in many different locations, framework conditions, and also building uses. The factors to achieve net zero emissions, I would say it's a combination of both energy efficiency measures, but also renewable energy sources and generation sources. So you would need not only to, let's say, I'm going to give a very practical example, to improve the insulation of your building, but maybe you would need to generate electricity through PV panels, for instance, just to make the long story made short. And if we talk about what is the key to achieving zero emission buildings, again, I have to stress let's say the idea that was presented in the presentation or in the session, which is in the case of pre-existing buildings, very detailed energy audit and understanding of the energy consumption and patterns of the building. In order to know what are the most effective or suitable measures to implement. And in the case of new building, of course, a well-designed building would be very important or key in this case to achieving zero emissions.
Thank you so much, Clara, for the response. Another question we have received for you. Are the multiple benefits of energy efficiency at the various scales, national, regional, individual, the same, or do they vary?
Yes, that's a very, very good question, actually. Yes, they can vary across the different scales. If you talk about national or even cross-national, regional, or more on an individual or user level, absolutely, they do vary. I did explain them in, let's say, the overarching benefits, but these can vary. For example, from an international point of view, one of the main benefits could be the energy price reduction or greenhouse gas emissions reduction. From a national point of view, it could be the reduced energy demand and local price reduction, or energy security, which is indeed a very important parameter for any country. From a sector, actually, point of view, if you want to delve a bit more granular into the different scales, then it would be an increase of resale value of the home in the case of dwellings, or in the case of commercial buildings, it could be an improved bill payments for the energy providers, or even job creation, installation. And without forgetting the individual level, which I think it's one of the most important ones, well, lower energy bills, of course, warmer, drier, more comfortable buildings, which of course lead to an improved productivity as well as health and well-being potential. Yeah, those would be, I would say, in very general terms, the different distinction between the multiple benefits of energy efficiency in, I'm assuming now, mostly in commercial buildings at the different scales that were presented here.
Thank you so much, Clara, for the response. And the last question we have received from the audience for you. Do you have any tips in order to select energy efficiency appliances?
That's, again, a very, very good question, I think. Thank you for addressing it. So There are many different tips for that, but I would say very overarching points would be first to choose the right size, so not oversize the appliances that are needed, so that they don't need too much energy or not waste too much energy when in use. Then yes, make sure that the appliances that are being purchased have the energy saving settings. So for example, a photocopier that you would like to it could be in saving mode and energy saving mode, and sometimes they have a button that you can just press and make it happen. Also decide within the organization or whoever is purchasing the appliance if the smart appliances are worth the investment. Oftentimes they are, because let's not forget that they're, and this is very often said, they have two price tags, right? One is the one that you get when you buy it, but there is another one, which is the price tag of the money you pay to maintain it during its lifetime. So I think it's important when purchasing any appliance or any item for the building related to its energy use, that we take into consideration not only the initial price, but also the potential money that will save you during its lifetime, or the fact that through a more smart or efficient appliance, it would have a longer lifetime, and therefore in the long term you will be saving money. Also, maybe look at any potential energy guide label that you would consider, as well as checking if there's any energy efficiency certification, such as Energy Star or something like that. Those would be, in very general terms, overarching tips in order to select or know what type of energy efficient appliances you should be buying. Hope this was useful.
Of course. Thank you so much, Clara. And also we'd like to thank Rahul, both of you, for the detailed responses to the questions. And now, well, ladies and gentlemen, finally we come to the end of this training session. I would like to say thanks to the panelists for the informative and interesting presentations, and to the audience for their active participation. We hope that the presentations of today will be beneficial for all stakeholders involved in energy efficiency. Thank you so much one more time for your attention, and wish you a good day or night from Copenhagen.